What's up, everybody? Project Manga is back with episode 55 of the Special Grade Podcast. I'm your host, Knox.
And I'm Mello Yenis.
And on this show, you know that we covered the Elusive Samurai, Ranger Reject, Kaiju number 8, Dandadan, Shangri-La Frontier, and Undead Unluck. We're going to have timestamps down in the description for you so you can skip spoilers for the series that you're not yet caught up in. And of course, we want to extend a huge thank you out there to all of you for subscribing to the special grade tier of support here over at Project Manga Patreon. We literally couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for sponsoring these videos and producing these videos. Love you. But no Eagle. Once again, this is just a two-man show. One of these episodes, we will have all three of us here. I'm pretty sure since season 4 started, I don't think we've had a single special grade episode with all three of us on it. But sorry about that. It'll be all three of us, hopefully by the next episode, and maybe even more. Might get a guest in here. Who knows? It depends on what we can work out with that. But getting into the discussion tonight, starting off with Ranger Reject, Chapter 40. Blue Keeper versus Peltrola. Holy shit.
I've been waiting for this.
Yo.
And I feel vindicated.
Yeah, you should feel great. Yeah, you should feel great. You called a couple of things in here.
Oh, God. It very much reminded me of the Rancor fruits where he like dropped little dudes and caused 1 billion copies of himself.
Holy shit, I didn't even think about that at all.
Yeah, I was just like, yes, that's a Bleach reference and I'm here for it.
Love it.
Those are pod people.
Pod
yes,
people.
Yes.
Pod niggas. Oh yeah, man.
Oh man, I kind of want to focus on that first, just because of the sheer choreography that comes in with Blue Ranger versus Peltrola. It's just like,
yeah, this is when Haruba Negi was really just letting everything out of the bag, man, for real. Like, we've gotten great choreography in Ranger Reject pretty much the whole time. Whenever there's any kind of conflict, Haruba Negi really shows out inside of the choreography for one reason or another, either just how great the choreography is at a raw level or how creative the mystery and subversion of everything is visually inside of his art, with the way that D shapeshifts and uses the environment and debris to confuse people. Like, all of those kind of fights are crazy. But now that we're seeing like super high tier divine tool versus like full, range of capabilities for the executive, this is just a completely different level now. You know what I mean? Like, this is like exactly what I was waiting for inside of Ranger Reject, and it is not disappointing at all. I love that Haruba Negi had this up the sleeve, for when it got drastic like this, as we should have expected. You know what I mean? But I just was so blown away. Yeah, for real. It was just so long, that before we got this. And 40 chapters really isn't that long at all. I'm always blown away by just how much content we've gotten in only 40 chapters of Ranger Reject. I feel like I've been reading this for so much longer. Yeah.
And you know what? I appreciate that in an author to be able to kind of like take the thread and stretch it for as long as they can and just keep it taut, and then when it strums, it sings, dude. I dig it. This is a good meal.
Yeah, for sure. I want to focus on this panel though on page 5 for me, or page 4 going into page 5. Your sins upon sins have long since earned you the death penalty. Didn't your parents ever teach you not to break promises? And then even D goes, Blue Keeper, sir, what do you mean promises? And then it kind of dropped there and doesn't really get, expounded on, which makes sense because that's obviously a very intriguing line of dialogue. You want to dangle that thread for a while and let some build up, go into that payoff. So that makes sense. But I'm pretty sure that based on, kind of what we understand about the world of Ranger Reject, I think it's a pretty safe assumption that the promise was executives, go away and let us fucking do this Sunday show with your foot soldiers. They probably had them dead to rights or some shit. And there's probably some profound dialogue about how even if you kill us, it's not going to stop, some kind of blue blap. And then, the Dragon Keepers were like, all right, well, we'll let you guys go. You guys can keep your lives if you promise to leave us the fuck alone and let us use your foot soldiers for entertainment to make money and, and garner,
consolidate our power.
Yeah. All
have
that
an
shit.
Excuse for our existence.
Yeah. Get fame and notoriety and just like, get in with the people, and it seems like it would be a good trade-off if the Dragon Keepers really were about to smoke them. You know what I mean? If they were like, hey, we'll leave y'all alone. Like, we'll stop fucking with y'all. We don't need our foot soldiers. Just let us go. You know what I'm saying? And then y'all can cook over here, and we'll never bug you
Yeah.
again. Type shit. I feel like that might be the promise. I feel like that might be a little too easy at the same
I
time.
feel
But yeah.
the way I saw it was I expected because there was multiple executives, right? And
Hmm.
like the way Peltrola treats X's
Yeah.
is very different than the way that like D's executive treated their foot soldiers. It like day and night,
Yeah.
right? Peltrola is about self-aggrandizement, glorification of the self, and like, yes, rely on me, depend on me, fear me.
Right.
And D's executive is like, hey man, what is life?
Yeah.
Or don't worry about it. Figure it out. Enjoy it. You
Yeah.
only get one.
Right.
Um, and so I feel like there was probably a schism in the executives, and I think that some of the executives sold out the rest to the Rangers. And then
Ooh.
in exchange for that, it's like, we'll give you the rest of them,
Yeah.
but don't destroy the fortress. We want it for later.
Yeah. So some of them are
But spare
gone
us.
because
Yeah.
the others sold them out. And
Yeah,
those
and
are the
then the
ones that are
ones
still out there coming
yeah,
back
and
to
so I feel
influence the
like
plot now.
Peltrola and maybe a few others were part of this conspiracy against the other executives.
I love it.
Because I feel like if you're like thinking about like they're from a culture, like literally in the same line where like how exasperating. Though I suppose in the end you are just uncivilized earthlings. You know, perhaps words is a task too difficult to ask of you. And then he doesn't think of anything of these people. He doesn't think about what he considers lesser species. Even the foot soldiers are lesser species designed to be used by executives.
Right.
So and they come from a culture that's like we're invaders. Our goal is hegemony. Our goal is conquest, ever expanding intergalactic conquest. That's the point.
Yeah. But no matter how advanced you are, no matter how brilliant, genius,
Yeah.
intellectual you are, you make a race of slaves, you make the mistake of giving them sentience, you're eventually going to run into this issue that we're seeing right now, especially because like D is like the main, contributor to the idea that the foot soldiers are upset with the way that the executives have, abandoned them. You know what I mean? Some of
Mm-hmm.
them are just dumb, go along with it. Like they'll be back, you know what I mean? They still fuck with us. We just got to hold it down until they get here. Like real loyal, real naive, totally going with the flow. And then you have
Yeah.
D, he's more of a realist and he's starting to kind of put the pieces together. As soon as he knew that Peltrola was still around, you see this like internal struggle with him on like whose side to take in the situation. Do you really
Yeah.
want to get the revenge that you want so bad? His entire outlook on everything has just been shattered with the reintroduction of Peltrola to the story. And
Yeah.
Peltrola did not say what D wanted him to say, like at all. You know what I mean? Like as
I
soon as D
feel
gets
like
to talk
he
to him,
did.
like as soon as D gets to talk to him, he's like, bro, like you could like in inside of his mind, internal monologue, when he's standing there, he's like, man, did you know about the humiliation that we suffered, every single day? Why did you disappear? Where have you been this whole time? And then Peltrola, while being very charismatic and seeming to be very compassionate and genuine while talking to D, you could feel that like shady, like I'm only giving you half truths, kind of like I'm telling you what you want to hear because I still feel
Ah,
like you're a
yeah.
means to an end. He should have been like, yo, I'm so sorry. I got a story for you. Once we're out of here, I'll tell you the reason why I was gone the whole time. You just got to fuck with me for now, and all of this will be explained, and figured out later. But right now, we got to get this blue keeper out of here. He should have said something along those lines, but it was more along the lines of like, "Hey, man, I'm here now. It's all good. Your suffering's over. I love you. Keep working for me." And D's like, "Nah, fuck that. That's not enough for
Oh,
me." Boom, and then
I
turns on
I
him.
I thought the part because he is affected when Peltrola says the lines, "D, you have fought admirably for the sake of all invaders. I am proud of you."
Yep.
And he acknowledges the pain, right? It must have been a terribly bitter experience. Thank you for guarding the fortress while we were absent. But it's okay. It's okay now.
Right.
It's like, will you join me for world domination? And then I think X's is actually the one that fucks up.
Okay.
Because in her like really like ingrained deference to Peltrola, she says the lines that really I feel like sets off D. Everything that the blue as like everything the Blue Keeper said, one was the truth. It is the executives who are truly invaders.
Yeah.
It is they who play the leading role in this war. And it's like,
Yeah.
because in the previous thing right above, it's like, we invaders are fighting to make this planet ours. And so when you're saying, like, oh, I'm an invader, but I'm not a real invader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, it's like, yeah, you're a citizen, but you're not a full citizen kind of
Right.
thing, where
Type
you're
shit.
always kind of like stared at as like you never feel like you quite belong.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what sets off D the most. He's like, I'm tired of living this 2-bit actor role. And the fact that he's like, this guy's the leading role, he just shows that Waltz is in, acts like he's all that. Everyone assumes that he's all that, but no one wants to talk. No one actually wants to find out the truth. And he's like, no. I can't fuck with this. Like,
Right.
so I think that like X's is the thing that said the thing that tipped him over, where
Sure.
he was like, he was almost won over by Peltrola because he
Yeah.
was shaken, like visibly shaken.
Yeah.
But then he's reminded, it's like, oh yeah, no, like they're the real invaders.
Yeah.
I'm just a foot soldier to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to grovel. I don't want to grovel. We groveled enough in
Yeah.
front of the Rangers. Why would I want to grovel some more to an executive? And
Yeah.
then,
It's
the added bitterness of like, fuck you for leaving us.
yeah.
You were gone for what, 11 years?
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard to tell. I feel like it's a combination of everything that we've been talking about. Maybe what, X is kind of like put down onto the table was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But
mm-hmm.
I can feel it in the art of Sakurama or of D's, facial expressions and in his dialogue. Like I could tell
Mm-hmm.
that he just thinks that this entire situation is wrong from start to finish. You know what I mean? And after this interaction with X's and Peltrola, he's just like, yeah, fuck this, dude. This is all stupid. Like none of this makes sense.
Exactly.
Like, and Exus is ready.
Yeah.
Exus is ready to just fall back in line, as if everything is okay. But it's like, man, I'm over here fucking with these humans, and he's definitely picking up social things from humans, maybe unconsciously, and it's fueling his outlook. Right now, even what I mean, like just the whole individual like aspect of humanity, just and ego, and obviously he was one of the first ones to kind of think critically and break apart from the pack inside of the foot soldiers in
Mm-hmm.
the first place. So like all of his experiences up until this point have got to have him looking at Peltrola and X is so crazy right now. And it's like I feel like Peltrola, it's like does he even really know who D and X's even are? Like, does he remember them? Do the executives really keep track of foot soldiers like that? I mean, it feels like, he's being very parental, you know what I mean, in his the way that he kind of carries himself and speaks to the foot soldiers. But I feel like it's kind of like okay, now that I know who you are, I'm going to talk to you this way, but I can't fucking tell the difference between any of you because you're all just tools and pawns anyway. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if that's the case, then it makes it even worse. You know what I mean? Because it's like it could be literally any foot soldier that comes up right now and he's going to talk to them the same way just because they're helping him in the moment. You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
there's just no like real grounded feeling of love or appreciation from Peltrola at all. Like you said, it's self-aggrandizing, god complex kind of,
Yeah.
like shit, you know
Um,
what I mean? And it's like D's like I'm good on that. You know what I mean? Like he's got to be
yeah.
so conflicted and just so emotional roller coaster right now.
Yeah. Because I keep getting that moment where Peltrola kills the guy right in front of X's and says, "Oh, you poor thing. I'm here to save you now. It's
Yeah.
gonna be all right." And she is literally covered in sweat, shaking.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel like it's like that. And like
Yeah.
even she says D's name. So like he has to be introduced to the name. he doesn't know who they are. He just meets them. He's like, ah, yes, I have to put on a good front
Yeah.
and like win you over. Like I feel like he's a lot of like abusers. You know, he
Yeah.
has to put on the good front. He has to kind of sort of like groom his collection of assistants and people that will believe in him
Hmm.
regardless of what he does. Um, and then when he's dealing with the Rangers, it's like, oh no no no, I don't care about my promises. You're just a stupid Earthling. I'm ignoring you. You're not, you're a barbarian. You're a
Right.
petty, you're a cockroach with feelings. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
dismissing you. Like he just seems like that kind of guy, and then justifies all his actions by I'm creating peace. How? You're murdering all these people. That's
Yeah.
not peace. Well, they don't have to worry anymore. Well, they were plenty worried while you were killing them. Like,
Yeah.
I
For
am a
real.
god. All right, guy.
Yeah.
Jesus, lighten up.
Yeah,
Um,
I just think the situation is just so complicated and emotional and dramatic, and I just love the I have no idea what's going to happen next kind of vibe in Ranger Reject, and Harubanegi just
mhm.
has like a really cool, unique story that you just can't guess anything from really a lot of the time. And I just think that that's so great for an action suspense story like this, because it's like when you can nail like, chapter composition and visual storytelling and all of these things that we know makes manga great, and keeps you coming back for more chapters, on top of having such a creative imagination and unique story on in the pages. It just makes for just masterful storytelling. And I'm so sad that Ranger Reject, and it makes sense, but I'm so sad that Ranger Reject didn't get as much love as we know that it deserves in the award show, because
Yeah,
it's like there
yeah.
weren't that many things that were doing shit better than Ranger Reject in 2021, in my opinion.
Honestly,
And now that we're in 2022, like we're starting to get like these crazy climactic bylong exams arc chapters, you know what I mean? And we didn't really get anything like this crazy in 2021, because I'm pretty sure Blue Keeper showed up like the first chapter of 2022, but like
yeah.
still, like going back and going through, bylong exams again, which I've been kind of trying to do in the last couple of weeks, has just been stellar, man. Like this is one of my favorite things that I'm
Yeah.
reading right now. Dude, going back to the choreography, right? There was this like panel or this page on 10 where Blue Keeper invokes the divine tool, and then there's explosions or whatever, but then he's rising up on this like, manipulated like patch of ground, you know what I mean, that's rising him up. And I'm looking at the next panel and I can see the face from Izome's, technique, and I see this pillar shooting it up, and I'm wondering like, is he, it's hard to
Riding the
tell.
head.
Like I know he's riding it, but is he riding it and then the mouth is shooting out a beam that's propelling him upward and destroying the clones underneath it? And then
I
like
think so.
that's what it like kind of
Or
looks like, but I'm also wondering like, is this erecting like a pillar, and like the stone slab can continue to rest on the pillar, and then he jumps off of it, or is this just a beam with this flat slab of ground that's just going in the air, and then after the beam kind of goes away then the slab would fall? Or is it actually lifting itself up with a pillar that is also doing damage to the clones as it's on its way up, as it's erecting itself? I don't
yeah, I feel
know.
like he's resting on top of the head. It is flying and then kind of like spinning to like cut through multiple people. Um,
So you do
and
think that
then
it's
he
like an
jumps
actual
off.
support beam, like
Um,
a solid thing, or do you think it's like an energy wave and then it goes away and then the slab would fall
I
down
think the
after?
head is floating.
Right.
I think that the head is itself like floating, suspending itself and like changing its direction of face, and he's just on top of it like this.
Yeah. No, no, no. He's definitely on top of the head, and the stone slab
Mhm.
is definitely like what he's standing on. I'm talking about like the beam coming out of it.
Oh, dude,
Do
I
you
don't
think that
think the
that's a
hyper beam
solid? Do you think
is
that that's a solid thing that the face will continue to rest on after it's risen up to wherever it's going to go? Or do you think it's only rising because this is an energy beam cutting through the clones, and then after the energy beam goes away, there's no more support for the face, and then the face would fall. But he obviously jumped off of it. I know that this isn't really the biggest deal, but like I
Hmm.
just like I can't stop thinking about whether this thing is
I want
solid
to
or
figure out the
energy.
mechanics of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to figure out the
Um,
mechanics
I
essentially.
think based on like his current like theme and element, I think it is just a giant torrent of water pushing it up, and then I
Oh,
think he's like dis summoning it or like disengaging it so it disappears after it so it doesn't like fall on its face.
yeah, okay,
I mean, because I feel like there's pages where I'm like, where is it again?
yeah,
And then he'll be like, and it's here again, and then it does the thing. So I think he's like engaging it and then disengaging it and then re-engaging it
sure,
later
yeah, that's
to
tight.
like get to like get good different angles on it
Yeah, yeah,
because it's
yeah,
just a straight shot. Um, from what I've seen. Um,
yeah.
oh man, it's that was the fight's so cool.
The fight is so
I
cool.
love Peltrola's executive form.
Yeah. I
Um,
have to wonder, like, why is his, like, first form that we saw, where he's kind of like, Oogie Boogie or whatever from Nightmare Before Christmas, where he has, like,
yeah.
the fucking, you know, burlap, like, sack, kind of cowl, and then,
Hmm.
the stitchy, eye holes and shit. It's just drastically different than what his seemingly actual form is here. I wonder what, like, was it just for like disguise? I don't know why he was wearing that thing before. And he
Um,
even kept that aesthetic going into this like gigantic tree form of his too. So it's just like I wonder what the if we'll ever get, some kind of explanation as to why the designs are the way they are, or if it's always just going to be, cool aesthetic stuff that never really gets deep dived in any kind of way like that. But
I honestly think that this is probably like a battle form.
mhm,
You know what I mean? So
mhm,
like he was powering up, concentrating his powers. He was generating those fruits that he could have a bunch of minions and allies.
mhm,
And then he's probably like, you know what? I'm gonna summon them. I'm gonna go enter like a battle form because being a big thing makes me a big target. And
yeah,
so like it's because he does use the beams that he used earlier, so he still has access to them. And I just feel like it's more like it's like combat efficiency because
oh sure,
like in video game terms, fighting big bad things that shoot lasers at you,
mhm,
there's always the same method of strafing the laser, trying to get at their ankles, trying to use their own size against them. If he's a species that has conquered multiple worlds, he probably already knows that, and it's just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna be the same size as you.
okay. But you think there's
Yeah.
more forms after this even? That makes
Um,
sense.
I feel like this is just like the executives themselves were able to shapeshift to a degree,
Sure.
and go through like metamorphoses. Um, I don't know how many more forms this guy has,
Yeah.
if at all, but I
Feel
just
like he
feel
might have
like
at least one more. Like he's got to be an ultimate Peltrola.
or yeah, like it'd be kind of interesting if underneath that armor that he has that's like covering him, it
Hmm.
just cracks open and there's all these like little wings with eyes
Ooh,
like popping out because he's got this whole god angel vibe going for him.
yeah,
He doesn't even have arms. Like he still doesn't have arms. He's
yeah,
just a torso with legs and feet,
yeah,
and legs, feet, and wings
yeah,
and eyes, and that he's maintained that like amount of his aesthetic through all his forms, to which to me is very, very funny.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think if you go out of your way to show first form Oogie Boogie, second form Oogie Boogie World Tree, third form Battle Rooster, then like I think it's safe to assume that there will be more forms, at least one more, right?
mhm.
Yeah, I love it.
I like
Fucking love this
I,
shit.
I like it because I feel like like it's really interesting because this is a series based off like something as formulaic as a Sentai series,
Hmm.
and yet they're so subversive and able to like pull out these like really moving bit characters and like interesting, like hard to grasp, um, unpredictable storylines, and I
Hmm.
love that. And then I think about like old Sentai stuff like Beetleborgs, like
Yeah,
the
big bad Beetleborgs, yo.
Beetleborgs, right? And then the bad guys that were like always the most interesting were the ones that were humanoid and like
Yeah.
about the same size. They were basically like, we are you, just evil.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember there
I
being a part in Beetleborgs where there was a villain that they ended up beating up that was really just like a person that was like experimented on, or there was some kind of accident that turned him into some mutated monster, and he like embraced it, you know, and like went around being a monster and seemed to enjoy it from what I remember. And then when they were finally beating his ass, he was like, "Wait a minute, I don't like I don't actually
I'm
want
done.
to, you know, like I'm not actually trying to." He's like pleading for his life basically, and was like, "Please, like, yo, wait a minute, like let's talk about this."
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, either I'm misremembering that and or whatever. But if my memory is correct on that, I just remember being like, damn, like I don't remember any time I felt bad for a fucking Power Rangers villain like ever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think that the humanizing, like the human form, is really important
Yeah,
because it reinforces the idea that both executives and rangers, for all their massive amount of powers, are effectively just humans.
yeah,
And then seeing that kind of like humanizing aspect might make it easier for D to be like, no, no, I want to kill the Rangers and I want to kill you now, like, and
yeah,
I'm going to. So like,
yeah,
I just feel like it's that kind of thing.
yeah,
And there was this moment right after the oh, what was it? After they start exchanging blows heavily, and Blue Keeper is just going into it. There was this line. X's was like, "There are beings entirely distinct from we foot soldiers. Um, Such is an executive, a force capable of bringing annihilation to the Rangers." And that's the and you can zoom in on D and how he's like gritting his teeth. And I was like, ah, yeah, you hate that, don't you? You hate the fact that they have all this power and they didn't do shit to the Rangers for like 11 years.
right. Yeah, because it's like, man,
Uh,
Peltrola is kind of like putting it to Blue Keeper, you know, and it could be a
mhm.
matchup based thing where Peltrola is just a good match against Blue Keeper, you know, and maybe like when the real Executive versus Dragon Keeper wars, you know, were kind of going on, it was a little bit more even as far as the matchups went. But yeah, man, like all of these things are probably just like so triggering for D. It's like, man, if that's the case, then why weren't you here? Why didn't you do anything? Why, if you're so much more powerful than these guys, why did it take you so long to finally come back and do anything unless you
Yeah,
legitimately just didn't give a fuck about us at all and you waited this long because you're about to enact your own kind of, you know, plots
bullshit.
that you had been getting ready for with no, you know, care about us in the background at all. You
No
know what I mean?
touchdown. Nothing to
And
look forward to.
yeah, and now that we're still here, able to be used by you, now that you've decided to come back because you're ready to get your own kind of revenge, or, you know, fulfill your own goals, or do your own plan, now you're just gonna use us again? Like, fuck that. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I
You're
love
gonna
what,
backstab the backstabbers? Like,
yeah,
all right, sure, I'm gonna trust you. Fuck that.
it's just such a great, it's just such a great vibe and theme and tone in the story. Because, and I've compared Ranger Reject to Hunter x Hunter a couple of times now, but the more that I think about it, the more I feel, and the farther we get in Ranger Reject, the more I feel like such a strong, you know, resonance with the Chimera Antarch and its themes inside of Hunter x Hunter. Because it's like the Chimera Antarch was really focusing on humanity in general and what it means to actually be human. Because you had, you know, monsters in the form of the Chimera ants that were becoming human over time. And then you had humans, you know, on the punitive force side of things, becoming monsters over time, having to deal with such a global threat, you know what I mean? And such deep, complicated, dramatic character interactions with these things that they're supposed to be exterminating, that they're seeing have human qualities. So I loved that trade off thematically inside of that Chimera Antarch of Hunter x Hunter. I feel like it is the strongest and my favorite theme inside of that arc. And I feel like that at its core is what Ranger Reject is trying to show in its overarching narrative. You know what I mean? So that just feels great for me as a Hunter x Hunter and Ranger Reject fan. I love seeing what I think to be, you know, some of my favorite works inspiring this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Did you have anything else for Ranger this week?
No, it was a very beautiful, very flashy, well composed chapter with a great plot twist, which I'm very excited to see.
Yes.
Um, I think that this is going to be a thing where Peltrola will slink off, and by backstabbing Peltrola and having to fight X's
Yeah.
a little bit, this will redeem Dakurama to the Rangers.
Hell yeah.
Like, because like he tried to kill the Blue Ranger, like actively tried to kill him, and I was
Right.
like, how are you going to reel this back? Either Blue Ranger dies,
Yeah.
which would be very interesting because fuck it.
Yeah.
That means a power vacuum, and in
Yeah.
a series as political as this one, that's gonna be good.
Yes,
Juicy
dude.
even. So like I kind of hope that kind of thing goes on, and then the other Rangers will reinforcements come in, and it would just be a Cadet Dakurama doing his best, fighting a foot soldier and an executive. He's managed to land a critical wound.
Yeah.
He's gotten through the Bylong door anyway. Congratulations, kid. You're one of us now.
Yeah. Straight up.
I just feel like that's going to be a thing. Part of me, I don't know how the executives or foot soldiers function in their physiology, but I would love Dakurama to be able to, like, I don't know, cannibalize part of
Mhm.
Peltrola to like reinforce his body, because like
Oh
how
wow.
flimsy and brittle his like shape-shifting shadowy substance of his body is. That's his biggest weakness, and it's a huge tell.
Hmm.
Like his hand will break during a handshake.
Hmm.
So like to avoid suspicion, he needs to reinforce his body, and I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
feel that.
that's story wise a pretty good way to do it
Yeah.
because they're of a similar biology.
Hell yeah.
But that's just me. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for me too, man. Great conversation. Beautiful conversation for Ranger this week. Hell yeah. All right, getting into chapter 43 of Dandadan. You won't get away with this. Holy shit. This chapter was fucking remarkable. The choreography inside of Okarun versus Gigi and the paneling, absolutely masterclass. I love the way the chapter starts off with this panel of kind of calm before the storm kind of vibe, tone setter into the damage from their fight before you even see the two of them. And then you turn the page into, actual images of Gigi and Oak running this beautiful single panel splash page double spread of their clash. Whenever you have that kind of lead in like that, where it's just nothing, then damage, then you show the fighters, it makes it feel a lot more cinematic. You know what I mean? When you kind of lead into it in that way. So I appreciate that technique there. So much
Mm-hmm.
creativity and just
It's
solid
just so
technical art in Dandadan.
I really quite like how cinematic Dandadan is. Like you can tell just the influences
Yeah.
from like movies, Chainsaw Man, even like artists as obscure as like MC Escher, because like I
Yeah.
love how like I'm looking at like the alleyway scene
Yeah.
in leading up to like the broken skyline. It almost reminds me of like alleys in like neighborhoods that I used to live in Hangzhou,
Nice.
um, as a kid, and but also like the house is sliced open so you can see multiple levels like a doll's house. And
Yeah.
I just love how like surreal, like it seems familiar at first, but then it has all these surreal joining ins, and it's
Hmm.
just kind of creepy and dreamlike, which I very much dig. Um god, it's fucking cool. And then
Yeah.
just I like the speed lines of just like them destroying it, and they're
Yes.
already gone. They're already somewhere else.
Right.
Uh,
The speed is so well represented, especially with the paneling and how Gigi's fighting style with this soccer ball energy attack that just bounces off the walls and the gutters of in between the panels and goes through the panels themselves. You can really track the movement of everything, and it's very fluid while being very high octane. He knows how to let, Yukinobu Tatsu knows how to let the panels breathe with contrast so you don't feel like it's fucking the flow up by having too much clutter. You know what I mean? I feel like those were things that we were complaining about inside of things like My Hero Academia a lot in its earlier
Mhm.
chapters. And it's something that, is a thing inside of manga, especially since it's a 2, 3 color or 3 shade medium. You know what I mean? You get
Yeah,
blacks, whites, and grays. It's easy, to kind of get lost in the sauce there. But Dandadan really excels at high octane action that's very readable and breathable. You know what I mean?
I love it. I mean, especially on page 4, where like, even if you ignore the ball that's coming straight at the like viewer's face,
Yeah.
you can see like the arc like go down from the leg that he's kicking to, and
Yes.
like it just like lets the eye like guides the eyes all
Yes.
the way through, just zigzag to the left, and then the punch coming in from the right, like
Yes.
great drawing around, and then like Okarun's mask points down and like leads into like the twists,
Yeah. You
and
can
like
really
the
feel them, man. The dynamic, like angles and shit too, like the explosions and impact all feel like really meaty and kinetic and heavy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's doing everything it needs to in this fight scene right now. And
Yeah,
yeah,
even like Gigi's like elephant protector Muay Thai pose
hmm,
almost looks like he's like either like kick it like the hand looks like it's flinging the ball behind him a little bit, as if he's like throwing it, even though that's not like the direct case, but like I
right,
like the implied motion that comes with that.
yeah,
And then Gigi just goes hard on page 6.
yeah,
He does, like, I just imagined Mirio the Million just going power.
yeah. This was probably like my favorite page of the choreography. I know that there's like a lot of wild paneling and choreography throughout this, and a couple of the other pages are a little bit more dynamic. But this showcasing like Gigi's entire kit of his fighting style is really cool because not only is it tight that we have this clash in the first place, because Okarun's fighting style is very leg dependent, but his is in the form of like speed. You know what I mean? Just running like
Mhm.
straight marathon legs. You know what I mean? But then it's also kind of a mirror match because Gigi is a soccer player. So he has a very leg dominant fighting style as well. But he is also just in general a physical unit. So he has a lot going on up top too. And the way that he kicks the ball and it bounces and ricochets off to come and hit Gigi hit Okarun in the face as he's loading up the crazy like martial artist, double arm hammer smash. You know what I mean? Like it's just so cool. It's some of the tightest fight hand to
Stance.
hand choreography that I've seen in a while. Like this is like Sakamoto days and Jujutsu Kaisen tier
Mhm.
choreography right now, and it's just fucking beautiful.
This is top tier. This is a top tier fight, to be
Dandadan's
honest.
got the
Like,
total package, man. It's firing on all cylinders in so many areas, writing and art wise. You know what I
and
mean?
it's crazy because I feel like a lot of groups will like gas up a series because it's the series they're covering,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like I get it, I understand it, but like Dandadan genuinely brings the juice, like is
Yes.
running on like all 8 cylinders pretty much every chapter.
Yeah.
And even if it's not like a high impact, high octane series,
Yeah.
they still do a lot of things very well. Even like the small things that make me fall in love with them, like Yozakura family, the
Hmm.
small like humanizing mundane details and like contradictions people have,
Yeah.
and that's just great.
It's a great
Um,
comparison because Yozakura Family is also, a pseudo action series that leans a little bit more into the slice of life, element than pretty much anything else. And you can really say that Dandadan is kind of like, in the same vein as that. I mean, it's definitely leans a lot more into wacky, crazy, like high concept things, like aliens and yokai and their relationship with Earth and things like that is all like really fresh and like wild and out there. And it brings about a lot of really cool action. But you do get a lot more often than most other battle series, full chapters dedicated to feelings and emotion and mundane, day-to-day
Hmm.
interactions between characters, just like Yozakura Family does. But like, man, the art is like really, and Yozakura art is like incredible, nothing to fucking slouch at. But
Hmm.
like the Dandadan art, it's like it's just got a little bit more going for it, you know what I mean? But they're
Yeah,
all like just in this tier of amazingly balanced action and slice of life storytelling, you know what I mean? It's crazy that we have both of these things going at the same time in the same generation.
yeah. I mean, seriously, I love that the fact like since the big three,
Yeah.
the artists have been getting like just consistently better.
Yeah.
Like I remember someone talking about like in a series Bakuman, right?
Yeah,
They
dude.
had there was their editor had a comment about how it's really difficult to turn people away when the art is so good. And he's like, "Yo, yeah, all these kids now have tutorials about how to use digital drawings and stuff. They
Yeah.
all have the same basic well of knowledge,
Yeah.
so they're all good."
Yeah, for sure.
So like it it just really drives home like the level of talent is rising and like the things that have
They
been
evolving.
established,
Yeah.
it's evolving, the foundation's been built years ago. And like, you know, we've come a long way since Doraemon, okay? Like that's all I
Yeah.
gotta say. We've come a
Yeah.
long way since Doraemon.
Right.
And like I like how the evil eye Gigi is basically playing.
Yeah.
He's not taking the guy seriously, and I like how that like please play with me has been kind of a core concept within that character.
Yeah.
And so like he still uses the soccer ball. He's basically playing like the most violent game of tag and dodgeball combined.
Yeah, because I'm
Uh,
wondering, like, in the flashback for the evil eye, apparition spirit thing, like, was when he was looking out of his cell watching the kids play, were they playing soccer, or is this like, because I'm wondering,
they
like, just how much, is the evil eye guy and how much is Gigi? Because it seems like he, like, went into this body, and then now that he has become Gigi, he's getting, like, memories and experiences potentially, because this dialogue is very, like, what does he say? Uh, he says, hold on, I have to go back a little bit actually.
Is it on page 8 where he starts talking?
Yeah, he's
He's
like, the
like,
way you're bouncing around in an attempt to run away is really annoying, but that's fine. I like to take my game seriously and use my entire body to the fullest. It's like, is he saying that because he's in Gigi's body and that's true for Gigi? Because Gigi's very athletic and, would
I
totally
think
say
there's
something
overlap.
like this, you know what I mean? But is it like the actual, like, this is just the yokai speaking right now,
You
and this was
know,
also
that
true for him or
that is a
something?
very valid point
Yeah,
because I don't think that the yokai really got a chance to like really play. Like it would dance around, so like yes, using their body, but like
right.
the language itself and the way it's structured implies an accustomed use of playing, which I doubt the cursed spirit really did.
Yeah,
I feel like it is a fusion of Gigi and like
yeah,
a nice nod that he's not completely taken over.
sure.
That's a great point to bring up.
Yeah, I'm just like
Uh,
really interested on the relationship between this yokai and Gigi, and I wonder if it's like a case by case thing or if there's some kind of, general blanket, exposition for how yokai and their hosts, kind of interact with each other after possession. You know what I mean? Because as much as I appreciate what Dandadan is doing, I am a power system junkie. You know what I mean? And though this is one of
how
the
does the system work?
yeah, this is one of the softer ones, you know what I mean, that we're dealing with right now. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
it's like one of the best soft systems just because of how, just Yukinobu Tatsu's imagination with it. It's very solid in its consistency and how it's been used so far, even though we don't
Yes.
have a buttload of exposition to go along with it and we don't know all of the rules and conditions for things. There is still room for us to receive that information. We just haven't gotten it yet. But I feel like it's on the horizon. I feel like we've been on the cusp a couple of times and that we can safely assume that we will get a deeper breakdown, of exactly how this power system works, or at least a better idea of how it works than we do right now. But it is really good right now still, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
especially because, like, dude, if the choreography wasn't enough in the hand-to-hand situation, Yukinobu's got it in the creativity of how the powers are shown in the series
Mhm.
too, because Gigi having, or Evil Eye Gigi having, a psionic attack that traps you in a house is so
Like he
on.
was.
Yeah, it's like so brilliant and clever, and it makes sense, and it's cool, and it's on brand for the character of the evil eye, yokai apparition thing, you know what I mean? Like, it just all fits and makes sense and feels good all the time, whether it's hand-to-hand action, a chase scene, or superpowers being used. There's just so much, like, it's just so solid at all times, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even the idea of him playing house, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And he's like, "I'm home."
Yeah.
It was very The Shining, you know?
Here's
They
Johnny.
had, yep, they had that moment, and also the idea of like, "Honey, I'm home," and it's like two kids playing house.
Yeah.
Um, so like I get that vibe too from that. I love that like these collected uh raging souls will take shape of what he hated the most. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to hurt you in the place that I was hurt the most."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Ah, this is invigorating." And like it's it reminded me of how generational trauma is passed down
Yeah.
through people. Like I know people whose grandparents were very strict, very, very hard on their kids.
Yeah.
And so those parents um, tried their best to be like not like their parents, but still when the chips are down, you draw on what you know,
Yes.
period. And it takes a lot of effort and restraint to not do those things or let those emotions get ahead of you,
Yeah.
to have restraint and have a good leash on your emotions to react that way.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've seen parents like, really like some kids that are like my age who are like they remember the few times their parents really like snapped on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that doesn't go away. They're never gonna forget that ever.
Yeah.
And like I always wonder, I wonder what if they're going to have a similar moment in their lives and they're gonna be like, oh shit, I'm my parents, I'm my grandparents, I'm
Yeah.
all these things. And so like having Evil Eye Gigi like possess Gigi, like do this thing, like hurt someone in a place that is shaped on the way that he was hurt. I was like, ah, yeah, curses. Curses are just generational trauma. Okay, I see what you're doing
Jeez.
here. I like that. It's classy.
That was a
Um,
really cool line of thought. Yeah.
yeah, it's just something that makes me think about it. And like he's
Okaru
like,
just grabbing this man in the face though and interrupting his
dude,
flurry, like, stop talking already. This is how you fucked up. Boom, you did this, that, and that. Do. Super double uppercut combo and just fucked his world up, bro. Like,
dude,
holy shit, Okaru is a tank.
he went full turbo granny,
Yeah.
and like I love that because um it reminded me of when he and Momo first challenged Turbo Granny to a foot race.
Uh-oh.
And they said, count to, like, you have to count, right? And then she
Yeah.
counts all fucking weird.
Oh,
So
yeah.
him counting and going fast as fuck reminded me of, like, his first interaction with Turbo Granny. I'm like, man, he's really going turbo. All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Wow.
And he's literally just doing like repetitive motions. He's literally bowing
Yeah.
and then doing a double uppercut. And like the fact that he's able to do that in the span of like seconds before
Yeah.
Gigi can even react is
Yeah,
pretty
dude.
fucking cool. I
Yeah.
was like, he's not even a fighter. He's not have a good stance. This is not a good stance to fight someone.
This is
I'm not a I'm not a
yeah.
savvy scrapper
Yeah.
by any means.
I just
But
love the
even I know.
situation, man, because it's like I don't know. I
Remind
I was oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, his line was like three things you messed up. First, you hurt Momo. Second, you defiled Gigi.
Yeah.
Third, you pissed me off, and I was like, is that like a reference to like like the real Ken Takakura
Oh, maybe.
movie actor? And I really want to know, like, if
Yeah.
anybody in the comments is like aware of old Japanese movies and there's a line similar to that and that's a reference, please let us know.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd
Um,
be great information. But
but yeah, that's it for me on that end.
yeah, I just wanted to just like, comment on it, how much the situation with Gigi and Okarun, right? Because it's like they're boxing right now, bare knuckle brawl, fucking mano a mano. And this is like kind of where I thought their characters were going when Gigi was kind of first introduced, because it's like, Okarun's clearly in love with Momo and they have their thing going, and then all of a sudden you enter this old boyfriend, childhood friend of Gigi's that, Okarun sees as kind of like stepping on his turf, being an obstacle, in the path of his love for Momo and their happy ending or whatever. So he's like got all of this anxiety and all of this animosity building up towards Gigi, but Gigi just ended up being cool as shit. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
love that direction too. But like I was totally thinking as soon as he was introduced, like, man, Okarun, versus this dude, whether it's super powered or just like slice of life, like fist fight, like for, the girl, just like felt like it was just where it was going to go, and I felt so strongly about that. And then when Gigi became, a part of the team and, kind of
Buddy.
was won over by Okarun and they started fucking with each other heavy, I was like, oh, okay, well, damn, we're not going to get that rivalry. We're not going to get that confrontation, in the
Mhm.
same way that I had originally thought. But now we're getting it here in this form, anyway. You know what I mean? It's like Gigi gets possessed, and now we get the Okarun versus Gigi that I personally at least felt was
Yeah.
had kind of been getting set up. And the way that it's kind of done, knowing now that Okarun and Gigi are friends, is just way better than what I originally had thought for this scene when we had
Yeah.
eventually quote unquote gotten to it. So I'm like really
It's
happy with the unexpected nature of the storytelling.
I like it because it's like a familiar beat, the idea of like what you wanted them fighting over Momo or just like throwing hands, because like young boys do that a lot. Like
Exactly.
like it's like, hey man, I don't like you, and then they fight each other and they're like, you know what, you're pretty all right. Like I like you. I mean, so many manga are about communicating your emotions through your fist kind of
Yeah, yeah,
thing. So
yeah.
like, it's kind of baked into the genre. Um, I really appreciate Yukinobu's Tatsu's like really like masterful way of re-representing the same concept but going at it in a different angle and like feeding it to us and layering it in a way that seems very fresh.
Hell yeah.
Um,
That was well
and
said.
like this page on 14 where he's like, you defiled Gigi, and I'm just like, you know, outside of Momo, Gigi is like Okarun's like first male friend,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like I can see why that's so important to him.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
He's like, this is my first male friend, and a first friend that I haven't had a crush on.
Yeah,
You
first
know,
friend in
like
general you fell in love with. Now here's this guy,
yeah,
and
and it's
yeah.
just like, and like I always think about like, oh yeah, no, because it's always tricky, because like um, having friends that you're attracted to, you're like, oh, am I your friend? Like I always have that guilt, and like, am I actually your friend? I hope I'm your friend.
Yeah,
I
I
hope I'm
feel
a
you.
good friend.
I feel you
And
on
even
that.
though I adore these certain people, and I'm like, you know what? If you see me, don't see me that way, that's fine. I still like you, but
Yeah.
like maybe I'm not altruistic. I have no idea. It's a very fine, muddy line, and I think it's different from
Yeah.
case to case.
Well, I'm sure you're
Um,
fine as a friend.
oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I
I'm sure
try to
you're
be
good.
pretty chill most times, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah, no, for
but
sure.
yeah, like the fact that like Gigi's first, like Okarun's first like male friend, and I
Hmm.
think that's very important to him because he's like within that sort of like storytelling binary.
Hmm. Hell yeah, man. Well, did you have anything else for Dandadan this week?
I'm just excited to see how Momo's gonna save the day. That's all I got.
Okay, so this last page, right? So like they're laid out on the ground, they knocked each other out, but then like it's like this zoomed out perspective showing, the whole scene here, and I can't help but think that like I'm missing something that I'm supposed to notice on this last splash page. I don't
I mean,
know.
you can kind of see that the worm is like somewhat underneath the earth, like that
Worm is a
giant
thing still. Yep.
vein.
Yeah.
And then you can also see like its little like puckery butthole that's like been
Yeah, is
spewing
that
ooze
what
the
that is? I
entire
was
time.
wondering. I was like, is that the
Yeah,
thing that I'm supposed to be noticing on this page? But I
yeah,
can't
that
make out
was
exactly what's going on there with
that
that.
was a chapter or two ago where it was like, oh, this thing is slowly spreading venom, and then
Mm,
mid-fight, Gigi was just like, oh, I guess the venom is starting to affect the vessel. Because like, yeah, page 9, you can see the zoom in of that little venom spout,
yeah, I do see it.
and it's the same spot when you zoom out on page 20.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's they're unconscious, the threat is over, but there's still that looming ticking time bomb, which I
yep.
like. Very ominous series, very cinematic.
Yeah, dude.
Fuck,
Brilliant chapter
just,
this week.
just fuck.
Brilliant conversation. All you can say is fuck. Can't wait for the next chapter. But I think that'll do it for Dandadan this week.
Yeah.
All right, getting into chapter 49 of the Elusive Samurai, Extraordinary 1335. How do we feel?
I his uncle's really grown on me, to
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
I at first I was like, man, this is a fucking gimmick. Like I was
yeah.
like, because like maybe I'm just morbid,
Hmm.
but like I'm not like a huge gag manga guy.
Oh, sure, me
Even
neither.
though like I'm like I'm a goofy person.
Hmm.
I make a lot of jokes, but like for me it's just like, man, sometimes like the really over the top, very zany stuff, I'm just like, I could give a shit.
Right.
But like I like Elusive Samurai in a way that like it does it really well without like relying it on it completely.
Yeah, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
and I feel like that's been consistent thing in the series that I quite like. Like I kind of like how they over exaggerate features on forgettable characters,
Yeah,
like the NPCs. I think that's a really good thing.
yeah,
Something that
that's a good
I
one.
recognized in like early Togashi era,
Oh,
like Yu
sure.
Yu Hakusho stuff, where they were
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a bunch of like background NPCs. How do I make them look interesting? Because they're in the demon realm. Well, this guy is just an eye.
Yeah,
This guy's got wiggly fingers.
yeah.
Uh, this guy's got a little party cone on the top of his
This
head.
guy's got a bunch of eyes.
Yeah, this guy's is a rabbit."
Type shit.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, like I was just thinking like the Yara Hojo and the way their teeth are just like it reminds me of like old school caricature of like
Yeah.
just shit talking. Like
Like some
it's like
Tex
yeah,
Avery, like, fucking Looney Tunes type shit.
yeah, where they're making fun of like a particular type of person. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this guy is um, just a mannerless, uneducated fuckwit.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, no, that is very reminiscent of that. I guess I hadn't really thought of that before.
Yeah,
Yeah, the uncle's funny. I like the uncle. I haven't really been here. I wasn't here last episode when you guys covered two Elusive Samurai chapters at once, where you were introduced to the uncle and then kind of got to kick it with the uncle for a little bit. And now we're kind of here in this chapter where he's starting to feel, part of the team, like a good character. I definitely, when I first read, about the uncle, he's introduced so cool, like samurai that smells of sunflowers type shit. You know what I mean? From Samurai Champloo, he had that like ominous, mysterious vibe. And then obviously it turned into comedy, and I was like, oh man, just that kind of like the same way you were. But yeah, now that we're at chapter 49 and he's kind of done his thing, he's still a very comedic character. But the way that he sets up the re-entrance into Kyo by literally starving himself for half a day and making himself look crazy as shit so that he can play this role to get them where they need to go. He's definitely, trying to think of like whose character it was in Ocean's 11, that was like the actor. It was Brad
Oh,
Pitt. Yeah, it was
yeah,
Brad Pitt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He would literally just like
for
go to
sure.
the
Oh, he was
places
a
dressed
beast.
as like yeah, he was like dressed as like a seismologist one time to let him know that like earthquakes are going to be a thing and like we got to get
Hmm.
everybody, evacuated. You should buy this technology that can, read seismic waves and shit, and we'll just leave this here with special heist technology hidden inside of it. All right, bye. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
that character, and I love that character, in the Ocean's movies, and so like I'm fucking with dude for sure.
I yeah, I really like him, and they also added the extra element of Gen learning something from him and like admiring him for like his like everyday sort of craftiness
Mm-hmm.
and
Because it
like
goes
because
into
Gen was
his
like,
style so
yeah,
much. Yeah,
it does. And then Gen was like feeling bad. He's like, "Oh man, I'm not lethal enough.
mm-hmm.
This sucks. I'm being." They're like, "Oh, it's just a trick, child's play." And he's like, "Man, we're fucking.
Yeah,
I got a 12-year-old general. Come on, what do you
yeah.
want from me?" Like,
Yeah, I appreciate the shit out of like where we're at in Elusive Samurai right now because we just came out of some pretty intense, conflict physically, and then well, technically we did the game of tag stuff with Yorishige's grandson and whatever. So we've kind of been
yeah,
in like a post conflict, area of storytelling. But then you go into the Genba stuff with the Tengu ninja that shows up and makes him feel weak and shit. And so now we've got like new motivation inside of Genba's character. I just love where we're at in Elusive Samurai in this chill down period before we go into this big final battle because we're actually getting to spend some time with the cast of retainers in like a non-action setting. You know what I mean? Like they're kicking it, they're having dialogue, they're showing their personalities, they're being themselves around each other, and it's really needed. I felt like for a while I was wondering, when are we going to get more Genba? When are we going to get more Shizuku? When are we going to get more Fubuki? You know what I mean? And it feels like we're kind of moving into that, at least for Genba right now, while we're all kind of kicking it, in a chilled down personality writing kind of way. Like just very character and crew driven to make them feel more familiar with each other and to make us feel like we know them better before we go into this final conflict. And that was something, like I said, I felt like was missing from Elusive Samurai. And I thought it would be a little bit more focused, which it still could be, but just seeing the entire cast of retainers interacting with each other is like really nice to see because I feel like previously we would just get little groups of them interacting. You know what I mean? Like you'll get Fubuku and Tokiyuki and maybe
they pair
Kojiro.
up.
Yeah, like you'll never get more than three. You know what I mean? That's like really focused on at a time, which is fine. But now that we're all together interacting together, it feels a lot better in that way.
I think so too, because like, despite only having so many characters, only having them paired up a lot runs the risk of like certain characters just like
Falling to the
not becoming
wayside.
irrelevant, but
Right.
like losing emphasis
Yeah.
to the point that like they are no longer main stage characters.
Right.
And like I wouldn't want that. I like this sort of tightening device by having the uncle flee the village and have like less people to rely on. They have to focus on their own skills and stuff, which I quite like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought Fubuki was very interesting in this section just for a flash, and I liked the idea that like his hunger and like poor mood are like enough to kind of trigger a more feral play style
Yeah.
that he's doing a little more gives him an edge, right?
Yeah.
Like gives him an edge to his fighting. um
Yeah. They need to have this motherfucker going into battle half starved every time.
yeah, no, seriously. And I wonder if that's going to be a thing. I feel like it could end up being a thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it when characters have this kind of like aspect to them, right? Because it's like we've seen it a couple times in fiction off the top of my head. I'm thinking of like Big Mom from One
Yeah,
Piece.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely
absolutely.
gets like a crazy, enraged, starving, hungry form that seems to be more powerful. It's always weird to think about that though, because it's like you would think that, you know, fully fed and all of your wits about you is the strongest version of yourself. But I guess it depends on the situation and your opponent, really. But then, like, it also makes sense that you are hungry and starving and in a crazed mental state because of that. So then you lash out and you're a little bit stronger in that way, kind of like, a hungry wild animal. You know what I mean? Like they're a
Yeah.
lot more dangerous because they're starving. You know what I mean? So like I like that aspect in characters like Fubuki and Big Mom and fucking Galactus from Marvel Comics is the same way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think that the scariest, the scarier versions of Galactus are when he's hungry, when he's starved, when he is really ready to eat a planet. That's when you're gonna get like the strongest or scariest Galactus. But it's just always like crazy for me to think about because it's like, what is your strongest, best form? You know what I mean? Between those two situations, so
Oh
it's just
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it makes me think about sometimes like because I read a lot of boxing manga, and then
Yeah,
I think about like the weigh-ins and stuff, and like how physically hard and taxing they are.
yeah,
But at the same time, like maybe it does help because like it's about mental focus in the end.
mm-hmm,
Hmm. I don't know. It's very interesting, and I like
yeah,
that they added that. Like they've been able to display this quality because so far his whole like his main shtick is that he's hungry all the time.
yeah,
And so I was like, okay, nice. I get to see a little more facets of that shtick. So I was
yeah.
like, ah, yeah, I quite like that a
Very
lot. And
creative.
then,
Well, Fubuki's a well done character through and
mhm.
through.
I really appreciate Genba's like going through this whole thing. It was like, because like I feel like him being like the experienced, skilled guy,
Mm-hmm.
but then still having feelings of inadequacy allows him to like level up in a way that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I think that plays well into his like youth. So, because the medium's been around a long time, there's always that, oh, I want to get stronger. And I'm like, but why do you
yeah,
want to get stronger? Like, you seem like a chill dude. If there wasn't a Demon King, what would you even be doing? Like,
yeah,
maybe do you really want to be the strongest dude or whatever title that is in your
yeah,
world? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, but why?
yeah.
Again, Buzz like, yeah, I feel inadequate. Like, fuck that. I don't want to feel that way. All right,
Right.
fair enough.
I'm gonna
Like,
stick it to
good
this
enough.
dude. I'm gonna get stronger right now because he kind of hoed me. You know what I mean? Like he kind of sunned me
I
a
felt
little bit
dirty.
in that last like altercation. You know what I
He
mean? So
definitely
it's
sunned
yeah, that's
him.
like that's totally motivation enough for a character like Genba. You know what I mean? He's very
Mhm.
fickle. He seems very like
Proud.
immature. You know what I mean? He's very it feels like his emotional state is just like all over the place. He'll be pissing on somebody one day, robbing a dude, like the next minute, you know what I mean? Like and then just being like a
Mhm.
best pal to these kids like in other moments, you know what I mean? But at the same
Mhm.
time you always feel like he doesn't entirely, you know, like everybody yet. You know what I mean? Like he's a part of the crew and it's interesting whenever we get character writing for him and he allows himself to be vulnerable enough to come to Fubuki in situations like this to ask for help, but I still feel like he's reserved and holding things back from the main crew, and I feel like his character should feel that way until we get more of his backstory fleshed out. You know what I mean? So I feel like the balance that Yusei Matsui has kind of achieved in Genba's character in that way is really impressive. He's one of my favorite characters in the series to watch whenever we get focus on him.
Yeah, I quite like that. Um, and I think it's just because of like his like upbringing with like a
Yeah,
complete lack of resources and not being able to have people he can rely on.
yeah,
And even though the person that he did rely on literally told him, do not be trusting,
yeah,
do not be trustworthy,
right,
literally lie, cheat, and steal the entire time. This
yeah.
is my skill set.
Yeah, and you can feel that indoctrination in him, in his personality, in the way that he carries himself, obviously externally, but like also you can totally feel him starting to see these people as real friends. You know what I mean? And that evolution is very subtle, but it's there. And naturally, when you're a character in that situation that has these insecurities and this like indoctrinated way of life, he's got to act, and he's young and immature. And I love that about his personality, but he's got to act too cool for school, all of the time. You know what I mean? Like he's got to act like he's a part of the team, but could literally leave them at any moment if he wanted to because he just sees them as,
You just got to
children
be that cool.
yeah, he's just got to cool guy him, you know what I mean? And I just can't wait until we get that super deep dive backstory fleshed out for Genba, because when he does eventually fully embrace the retainer squad in Tokiyuki and is 100% like transparent as a character, that's going to feel really good because of all this build up for it. So
Oh man, I think it'd be really interesting if his like Genba's like final arc of development is that he gets the jump on somebody who's been seeing through, like if he fights the Tengu, right? Like if
mhm.
the Tengu's set up to be his big bad, right?
Yeah,
Potentially.
yeah,
The way he gets past the Tengu, even though the guy's like he's able to notice the mask.
yeah.
He's able to notice the disguises. And the way that Genba gets past him is he just uses his real face. And I
Yo,
think that'd be hilarious.
yes, I would love that. Oh
Ugh.
my god, I wonder what face he's turning himself into at the end of this chapter. I can't wait to see that next chapter. I'm assuming this one
Um,
will get that.
he's changed a little bit when they go through.
Well, he's slowly changing his face throughout like the last couple of pages of the chapter, I want to say.
Oh, I thought he had finished, and he was like the last page
Oh,
of
you thought
Maki
that.
is that he's taking it
Oh,
off
oh,
because if you look at the bottom page of 16, the uncle is very distracting.
yeah.
But if you look at their ears, you can see Genba disguised as this like kind of like
Oh,
squinty freckled kid.
oh, sure.
So I was thinking that it was like a picture of him getting rid of the disguise. Because he does put it on at first.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
like that he does it on different sides. So like the first side, and then you go to the next page and it's both sides, and then as he's taking it off, you get the like right side.
yeah,
And I was like, nice. Great visual storytelling. I like that little nod. It's just like, hey. Um,
yeah.
it's all symmetrical. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think I'm following it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But we
just
never saw like the fully transformed like oh wait, because he was only transforming so that he could get past this gate. And then they get
yeah.
past the gate and he transforms back. Okay, fine. But the only time we see like what the actual face looks like after he augments the mask is in this like really comedic reaction panel of him getting through the gate, right? On the bottom of 16. So I guess I just completely just missed that and assumed that because we didn't get like a dedicated panel to the transformation that he was still going towards it by the end of the chapter, but no, he's definitely going back.
He's a subtle kid.
Yeah, yeah. Funny.
I mean,
Okay.
the visual storytelling is massive on here, even with like the forehead thing and like
Yeah.
I like the parallel of him and his uncle like being
Hmm.
told like yeah no they're both just kind of wiling and cunning and
Yeah.
they their being extraordinary doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be cool.
It just
And
has
I
to
like
work.
that. It just has to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if I look like a loser. I got past you. I
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
Like,
I win. Oh yeah,
yeah,
dude.
dude.
Beautiful
I
chapter.
love that.
Yeah. You wait, you love what?
I love the 14-15
Mm.
double thing where he's just like, please let us roll, please.
Yeah,
I'm
just
just a little guy. I couldn't get past you.
yeah, and you say Matsui just like put everything into the wackiness of this crying and pleading scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
I'm
like
normally
here's
not
an
like
excuse for me to get as weird as I possibly can, and it totally fits
he
the
just
situation.
is.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm just
Yeah.
like normally I'm not about it, but I'm like, you know what? This really won me over.
Yeah.
This was like
It hella works
well
here more
surrounded.
than like any other like any other situation where they've done this exaggerated facial expression shit has been pretty jarring, and I'm assuming on purpose. They want it to be that way, which is fine, but this one like really fit for the moment because like
It was super well supported by like
yeah,
the entire chapter, and I was
yeah,
like, yes, you've been cradled. This weird, funky little moment.
yeah. Beautiful. Did you have anything else for
Mhm.
Elusive Samurai this week?
Nope, that's it for me.
Yeah, I think I'm good too. All right, getting into Shangri-La Frontier, chapter 74, The One Beckoning a New Tide. I love how we're kicking it here in Nephilim Hollow. getting, you know, information about the world. Essentially, these first couple of pages are just like the premise on the back of the fucking game,
Mhm.
you know, case basically. But then we start going deeper into it, and the deeper I got into the chapter and the more I, you know, saw that we were getting more and more information on Nephilim Hollow, it started to make me think like, man, we could spend a lot of time in this arc. Like we could be in Nephilim Hollow for like a while, like a whole thing. I had assumed that jumping into other games in Shangri-La Frontier would be like a couple of chapter thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he is going into like what seems to be like kind of like the final fight of this little segment of
Yeah.
storytelling, but he could lose here and we might have to stay longer inside of Nephilim Hollow, which would be just a really cool break from Shangri-La Frontier for like 6 chapter mini arc
I
before
think
going
that'd be
back would
amazing.
be so cool. Yeah.
Like 5 to 6, I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
I think anything longer than that is just like, okay,
Yeah.
like,
No, I'm ready to get back to Shangri-La Frontier now. We got like too much narrative set up over here to be chilling over here for too long. I feel like Ryosuke and Katarina will knock out the pacing and length for
oh yeah,
this for sure.
I think it'll be quite good. The for the pacing, but I do like that they're dedicating this much to it
Yeah.
because the build up to the reward of getting like power armor was massive for Sunraka and fueled like the last 2 arcs.
Yeah.
And so like
Having that snatched away
this
from him by the Lycaon
this is the
curse.
payoff, and it
Yeah.
should be big in
Yeah.
my mind. So I was thrilled that we were getting at least 4 more chapters,
Yeah.
like
I would
four
love that.
chapters of this
Yeah.
total,
I would
at
love that.
least minimum.
Whether
Like
that's in
I
the form of this fight just lasting that long, or, you know, this fight starts and he still loses and has to go back to build one more robot and come back for
yeah,
the real W. I honestly feel like that, now that I think about it a little bit longer, I feel like that might not be a thing just because of the Sun Raku factor of everything. I feel
yeah,
like he'll
that's
probably just
been
pull this
an
W out.
ongoing thing.
But I would love
Um,
if it was like stretched, you know, for at least a couple more chapters and he doesn't just win by the end of the next chapter and jump back into Shangri-La. Because I love Nephilim Hollow so far, dude. This world is cool as shit. This game's lore is so tight.
yes. Oh my god. It. I love mechs. I love
Yeah.
mechs.
I
I'm a
love them
terrible
like this. Yeah.
Terrible Gundam watcher
Yeah.
because like I've watched very little Gundam,
Hmm.
but I love
I
mechs
love,
so
yeah, dude.
much.
Like I was gonna say, like, dude, like spot on. Like I love the idea of mechs, but I don't like, you know, dedicated mech stories. I guess I just like
There's not
when a
a
story
lot of them that
leans
I
into
like
it
a
a little
lot.
bit, and then I get my fix, and I'm
Um,
like, all right, back to fucking superpowers and magic.
yeah, like Escaflowne was
Yeah.
one that I really quite liked,
Mm-hmm.
but it also, like you said, it had fantasy, it had magic, it had other things to rely on besides just the mech part. I
Right.
like one of the games that I've been playing recently, Lancer, which is like a mech tabletop RPG. You guys should
Right.
check it out.
That's cool.
Um, it has like a pilot section where you're like, okay, mission downtime. What is your life like? Maybe you can do a quest or like different, potential, you know, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Whatever.
So like, you have like what life is, and then you have like the mech stuff and the mission and like the tactical side. So I like that it's fluid. I think it's gonna serve that well within Shangri-La Frontier.
Yeah.
To have like, yes, cool, congratulations, we have something for the mech dudes, and then now we're gonna go back to Shangri-La and we're like, hey, remember, we still got those mech stuff, we just can't use it right now.
Right. So here's your since we set it up for so long and tickled you, you know what I mean? Tickled you
We're gonna
thinking
follow
that
through.
yeah, we got the magic application unit and now Sunraku has everything that he needs to pilot these cool mech armors that he got from the Wazaimon fight. But whoops, rug out from underneath you. The Lycaon curse means he can't equip any of these
Dude,
things.
that's
And it's
hilarious.
like that
I
is
still
such a fucking blue balls moment, but it's so cool that this is the kind of story that we're in right now because Ryosuke and Katarina can just be like, but you still get that over in Nephilim Hollow, so enjoy that for a couple of chapters. And
so
it's like, yeah, you
satisfying.
guys rock. Yeah, like fuck yeah, I love you guys.
It's like, thank you for, like, I appreciate that consideration.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's more so
Um,
Katarina than Ryosuke, obviously, because she wrote all of this stuff in her like light novel or whatever, and it probably all happened very similar to this in the light novel. But the way that Ryosuke brings it to life with his art is just as much responsible for like why this is so cool right now. So
oh man,
Yeah.
I love the process of gaining your robot.
Yeah, dude.
Like I like the fact that they've like, got like a story where it's just like these things that are wide awake. They
Yeah.
see you, they'll attack you. These ones, they're half sleeping. And so like I like the idea that like they're not conscious,
Yeah.
and then once you fuse with it, you give it consciousness
Yeah,
and
I'm
you
not
share
used
it.
to a mech
And
origin like this. You know
that's
what I mean?
cool.
Like that's so tight. Like I'm used to just it being we built these robots, hop in, and there's usually some kind of caveat, you know what I mean, that separates like normal people from just jumping into these things. Probably just training in most cases, but like you have something
Hmm.
like G Gundam where it's like when you put on the cockpit latex like cockpit suit, it could break your bones if you're not trained properly enough, you know, in your body and martial arts and you know in
If
general and
the
whatnot. Like
feedback will just destroy you.
yeah, there's always you know some kind of shit like that, but like for the most part, it's just we built these things. Hop in, you're the main character, go fight some shit. Whereas this is like so much more interactive and involved, and like you start out as like a fucking military guy. You have to go out and find your fucking mech by hunting it down, and then
Amongst other giant mechs that can kill you because you're
yeah,
a little guy.
yeah, dude, like that's so like that is just one of the coolest ideas that I've ever seen. And maybe this is a thing in other mech stories and I just don't know because I'm not a mech guy. But like for someone who thought they knew what like the mech situation was about, this is a completely fresh and new take on mech storytelling for me. And I just think that it's so fucking cool that Shangri-La Frontier, the creative team, Katarina specifically, had all of this for Shangri-La Frontier, but then also all of this for some side game that we're not going to spend too much time inside of compared to the rest of the
Yeah,
story. Like that's just so crazy the amount of depth and creativity inside in Katarina. Like that's wild to me. I'm like so
it's
impressed by this.
it's rich for its own sake, and it's
Hmm.
like this completely irrelevant to the story. But you know what? It's still going to be rich. It's still going to be nuanced. It's still going to be compelling,
Yes,
and we're gonna be happy with it. Fuck it. I don't care. Like
I
this
love
is
it.
oh so
This
good.
is some of the coolest shit
Um,
I'm seeing in manga right now. Period.
yeah, it's oh man. Like I think it's also like a really good example of like the potential of deep dive video games. That's the whole base of the whole game,
Yeah,
like whole series, virtual games. And it's just like there's so much room to play with for like deep dive VR games, and
yeah,
I would love it if like because I know we're not there yet,
right.
but we do have stuff like Oculus, and we have that weird shit like the metaverse. Um, but like
Metaverse.
it's so gross,
You can have
man.
any virtual world you want, and
And you
you make your
chose
fucking shit
landlords.
like lame ass like corporate suburbia.
Yeah, what?
Like what the fuck?
I don't want to live in a Sims universe. That's
Yeah,
bullshit. Show
yeah,
me
like
I got artificial bills for an artificial house. Fuck that
yeah,
shit.
like that's
Uh,
wild.
yeah, I'll just play like Stardew Valley. God damn it.
Yeah,
Like,
fucking play Maple Story before I go into the fucking metaverse.
for real. But yeah, I like I would love to see games like this in the future when we do it like if the video game technology develops in that way.
Yeah.
I would love to see that kind of stuff.
Oh
Like this
yeah.
seems like a great
Dude, yeah, and we're just getting primed and primed and primed for that kind of situation with things like Dot Hack Sign and Ready Player One and
idea.
Shangri-La Frontier. All of these things are just really putting it in our minds that like we can't wait until technology reaches a point where we can just cerebrally link ourselves and jump into these worlds in the same way it's represented in these fictional stories. And it's like that's scary to think about because it seems like almost too you know, metaphysically utopian. You know what I mean? Like in my mind,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, holy shit, if that was a thing, I might really just throw my life away for that. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
scary to think about, but I still want it. You know what I mean?
I think I brought this up with Eagle on the last episode about
Yeah.
how I had a friend who like really got into World of Warcraft. Like they neglected like large parts of their life and like going on to focus solely on a game because it was designed to be fulfilling and like get all his endorphin triggers and
Mm-hmm.
stuff and like have that kind of like satisfaction escalation cycle
Mm-hmm.
built in. So like yes, I really want to play a deep dive VR game. Yes, holy shit, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
I actually have like for like my tabletop games, that's part of the plot of like one of the stories. Like this thing is super addictive and it causes the fall of a civilization.
It's just too rewarding. Like there's too many chemicals that you're going to get from a situation like fully interactive, immersive VR, like the kind we see in these stories. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's kind of like, drug addiction, where it's a scary thing when your body is artificially receiving more euphoria than the body can produce naturally. It's going to
Yeah,
make you want to keep going to that source to get something that your body can't give you on its own. And that's how you fall into addiction. You know what I mean? And it's not just
absolutely.
drugs, it's things like this that have all of the same stimuli, as the real world, but you get superpowers. That's
Yeah,
fucking scary as shit to think about.
that is scary. It's like it's the same premise as like say people who get addicted to porn.
Yeah.
Like yeah, sex is great, but also like porn is so extra that
Yeah.
like
You don't
it's
need
just
any
extra.
of the it's more like simple, I want to say, because you don't need
Yeah,
it's so like right
distilled.
there. You
It's
don't have
distilled.
to talk to anybody and fucking establish chemistry, and
Yeah,
there's no, like, it's literally just instant,
it's just instant
satisfaction
gratification.
to
Yeah.
give you a similar feeling as, I don't like saying this, but the thrill of the hunt, you know what I mean? Like, you're taking all of the hard work away to give you the thing that is usually
And
rewarding you
like
for
the
your time
reward
and
angle, yeah.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And like nuance, like the
Yeah.
person's like, yeah, you know what? You happen to find me at the right time of day and you talked a good game and congratulations. We're both walking away pretty,
Yeah.
happy. Like I'm like, sweet, great.
That's
I'm just thrilled to be here.
so funny how this turned into porn. But it's so, like, it makes sense, you know what I mean?
But that's
Like,
any addiction is anything. Like I
right.
like it we could go into drug addiction and just
Yeah.
be like, hey man, like people have hard lives and
Hmm.
like that's the core part of why the deep dive would be so addicting because like we normally get our euphoria and endorphins by the good positive things that happen in our lives. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. So a lot of people, their everyday life isn't that rewarding, and that's why a lot of people turn to whatever they turn
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Straight up.
Rough.
It's
Um,
getting deep over here in the Shangri-La
yes.
Frontier segment right now.
Oh man,
But
I
getting
think
back into the chapter, man, like, I just like it feels like more of a setup, obviously for this like fight between Rust and Sun Raku. So I'm like really, it's pretty straightforward in that way. Give you lore for Nephilim Hollow and set up this final confrontation. It did everything that it needed to do, and obviously we're dumb excited for the next chapter. But like compared to other Shangri-La Frontier chapters, this has like less meat and potatoes to really dive into, because one, it's establishing a
Mhm.
foundation for storytelling in a completely new place, so there isn't a whole bunch of like previous narrative history tying us to the situation that's at hand here, so it's not as deep divey conversation wise. But like, dude, what a cool area that we're in right now in this stretch of Shangri-La storytelling, bro. Like, this next fight, I hope, is like a multiple chapter banger. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Crystal Scorpion, Wazaimon,
That was
like
so much fun.
Rust kind of situation. Like inside of this Rust character, I hope we have a situation where it is a very long, technical, deep, nuanced fight for this Nephilim Hollow Crown. I think that is just what I want so much. But if the next chapter is them fighting the whole time and then Sunraku winning at the end and going back to Shangri-La Frontier, whatever, because like, hell yeah, more Shangri-La Frontier. But I think that this is just such a cool and unique and fresh angle in the story, and I really hope that we get some length in this game.
You know, now that you mention it, I've
Yeah.
noticed that trend where like the Lich Choir and the Crystal Scorpion were all multi-stage fights
Hmm.
because of how the pacing kind of like could go escalate really quickly,
Yeah.
and it's really easy to like bypass whatever because it is a open world deep dive game and they can
Hmm.
literally just do whatever. I think that like maybe helping space that out, having multi-chapter fights might be kind of a way to like spread that out and
Mm.
make it more intimate
Yeah.
and more like part of the journey. You know
Hell
what I
yeah.
mean? Like the fight itself is part of the journey, and I hope that's true because that could be a nice real like trend, and I
Hmm.
would like to see that more in this series, and then hopefully, therefore, in other series
Yeah.
as things go by, because I'm used to having like, you know, 4 chapters of exposition and then one fight and then it's over.
Yeah.
And then cool, next arc. Okay, here's 5 things, here's like a big fight and then 3 chapters and then a fight again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But if like you're expanding it, delving into it and like stretching it out to get your like real money's worth out of each fight. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Love that. How do you think that Sanraku's going to pull off a win?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the last thing that I really had for the chapter was this fiddler crab mech that he's decided to bring to the fight, because obviously we have no idea like what the strategy behind the fiddler crab choice was. Obviously they're saving that for the actual confrontation next chapter. But just based off what we know about Sunraku, I feel like this is all face right now, and he's trying to
Mhm.
lull or lure Rust into a false sense of security. He's definitely playing into the ego and bravado and pride aspect of being so highly ranked and enjoying that quality of yourself. So obviously he's challenging Rust's or he's attacking Rust's pride and ego directly by coming with a very unorthodox mech that seems to have stats that are hard countered by Rust. You know what I mean? So like what
Mhm.
kind of mind game is that in and of itself? But also I just feel like it's just a facade. And once, Rust has kind of fully leaned into the idea that Sunraku is fighting her with, a mech that is just not up to the task, that's when some button will be pressed and it'll turn into, I don't know, I get to see some underhanded trick where it's like, yeah, big slow
Mhm.
crab arm, and then like as you're, trying to attack me in the opening I've created by, attacking you with such a slow, weapon, that's when Sunraku, his real plan comes into form in whatever way that may be. I can't really see this fiddler crab mech transforming into like a sleeker, version or anything like that. So
No.
I'm really excited to see how Sunraku pulls it out, but I feel like it's just underhanded, grimy, shady, poker
Yeah.
face bluff tactics right now. And I just love that about Sunraku, that he has a bag like that he can jump into. Makes perfect sense for his character as someone who's as experienced as he is in shitty games specifically, because that allows for,
Yeah.
the vibe of, more sneaky and shisty fighting styles making sense for Sunraku.
Yeah, I think he's very mischievous in the way
Hmm.
he plays.
Hmm.
Um, I was looking at like the legs on page 14
Hmm.
where they look like they're folded up, so he might actually be like taller than he is. I think he might
Yep,
use
yep.
like a sudden disparity in height to like throw the opponent off, and like the other arm
I
looks
love
stubby
that.
like a cannon.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if it was like a net gun to like reduce their mobility
Ooh.
and then like throw them off with the sudden standing up and heightening, hit them with the net gun, like a weighted net gun,
Yeah.
and then hit them with the big claw
I
and then
love it.
call it good. And
Defense
I
and
was like,
utility, to take the attacks while playing mind games so you can set up the fucking net into the crab hammer. I would love that too.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love the spot that you found, or at least that you think you found here on 14, with the
Yeah, it's
legs
just kind of
seeming like
curled
they're
up with the
folded up.
hinges.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
totally see this thing getting at least taller, and if it can get taller, it can probably change in other ways. But the only reason why I think it's not going to be that drastic of a transformation is because these are very experienced players of Nephilim Hollow. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I feel like, they have a really good idea of the different kind of mechs that can be brought to this fight. So if he did have, some kind of crazy mech that gave you a defensive, tough outer appearance that transformed into some sleeker model
Hmm.
mid combat to give you extra kind of advantages in those ways, that these people would definitely know about that, because that's a really crazy thing. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
seems kind of broken almost when you think about it. So I feel like high level players would be able to see through a tactic like that if that were the case. So I can't see it transforming too crazy, but difference in height, miscalculating, like in your attack because of that slight difference could give, Sanraku all the opening he needs to exploit and take out the W in a very thin margin of error kind of high level skill way that we know
Hmm.
Sunraku is like all
All the
about.
timing.
Yeah, exactly. So I love it, man. I think that would be really cool.
Hmm. I like his little Destiny mask that he
Yeah,
kind of
man.
has.
It's
Looks like
so,
Destiny.
yeah, it's very Destiny
Oh,
esque.
was it Exos? The
Yeah,
Exos.
I don't know anything about Destiny actually, but I do remember its aesthetic, and I am familiar with its aesthetic, and I
Yeah. Some
and
of my
I
friends are just like
definitely
big
see the
about it. They love
Destiny
it.
in it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got anything else for Shangri-La?
No, just can't wait for the next fight.
Yeah, me neither. Hell yeah, man. Great combo. That'll do it. All right. Last chapter of the night. Undead Unluck. Chapter 97. Rotten Bastard. Getting closer to chapter 101, man. This shit is getting crazy. And as we get closer to that 101, I feel like these chapters are just going to have so much to unpack every single week. This
Hmm.
one is a great example of that. Holy moly. How do you feel about this chapter, Mello?
Talk about acceleration.
Yeah.
Like we were like, oh man, I don't know. Doesn't it feel like the pacing it's gonna go past 101? And we're just
Mhm.
like, oh shit, this is happening. Oh
I think we
god, this is
definitely go
happening.
past 101 because that's like the question that we've kind of been having, right? It's like ever since we got the information about to me, or I mean to you from me, and the
Hmm.
rotten like high school arc that mimicked spoil in volumes to chapters, you know what I mean? Ever since we got that information,
Hmm.
it was always just like what's going to happen at chapter 101. You know what I mean? And I think what makes the most sense, we said obviously either they beat God at chapter 101 and the story is over, or something like that. I think it was a little bit deeper than that, but anyway. Or we get to chapter 101 and they lose and the world resets and we get a second loop, in the story, and then they go through it again and then beat God the next time. You know what I mean? So that avenue would explain a lot of the rushed feeling pacing going towards Ragnarok right now. You know what I mean? If we are going to experience an actual loop, which I'm pretty, you know, confident that we will, then all of this sped up crazy pacing in this first half of the story makes a little bit more sense.
Hmm. You know, so I had this idea. Well, more of a question. So Ghost has Foucault's spirit, right?
Yeah,
He hasn't eaten her.
right.
He said he
Soul
was gonna
too
save her
strong.
for last.
Yeah.
He said he was gonna save her for last. What if they fail the loop and he still hasn't eaten her? She's not dead, but she's definitely dead. So would she survive the loop, and it would be Fuko and Andy on the Union side as the only two that like know what happened in the previous loop?
Yeah, that's crazy because it's like we know that Juiz gave up all of her points to fast
Yeah.
forward, a week into the future or whatever that deal was a couple chapters ago. So she's no longer has the most points, so she can no longer ride the arc, meaning she cannot keep her memories going into the next loop. She sacrificed that. And then all of the points went to Andy, right? So now Andy's the head, right?
Maybe.
I think
I
is how
believe
that
so.
works. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to go
Yeah.
back into the previous chapters and confirm that information right now. So just let me know in special grade, or whatever in the special grade chat if that is incorrect. But if that
I'm
is
not
the
sure about
case,
the point.
Well, if that's the case and Andy has all of the points, then he can ride the arc and keep his memories going into the next loop
Mm.
because Andy doesn't keep his memories from loop to loop or whatever. This is like his first, you know,
Existent loop.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like this is his first thing, even though he's immortal, and we can assume that he has been, at least his body, you know, regardless of whether or not Victor or Andy is inhabiting it, the body of Andy has survived multiple loops. So, so yeah, if he gets all the points and he rides the arc and he keeps his memories going into the next loop, and then your situation of Fuko keeping her memories because of her limbo state with Ghost going into the next loop, then I think that that makes sense. I think that would be, you know, what the story would want is for at least Fuko and Andy to keep their memories going into the next loop because it's
Yeah.
all about their relationship. And even if they are star-crossed, you know, multiple reincarnation lovers like Hawkman and Hawkgirl, like you want to keep that continuity of their relationship alive from the start of the
Yeah.
story to the end of the story, so you shouldn't erase both of their memories at least.
Yeah, I think so. I feel
Yeah,
like that's gonna happen for some reason.
yeah, I
Um,
like that.
yeah. I don't know. I remember the arc being said that they can't use the arc very much, if at all, anymore. They're just like, we're not sure how stable it is. It probably has like this might be the last run to like safely use it, but to unsafely use it, maybe they get to the final run.
Oh, wait a minute.
Uh,
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure Juiz gives all of her points to Luna, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
who's like this new entity.
yeah,
I think it's like another divinity because like it was Luna, the moon. So
yeah,
like I think it's another god
yeah.
or
I don't know
another
why I thought
aspect
she
of
gave
the
all of
moon.
her points to Andy. Yeah, I feel like she definitely didn't now. Yeah, no, I feel like she's like, I'll give you all of my points, Luna. I know that disqualifies me from the loop. Yeah, I remember the scene. Okay, okay. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know then. I don't know then, but
It's interesting to me because I wonder if like Luna is basically like an Artemis to God's Apollo, that kind of thing, where it's like because there's like the like you know in Castlevania the whole magnum opus thing, and they talk about like the perfect alchemical being that represents God. It has both male and female characteristics, and the idea that like and like there's also the idea that like the universe was created when like Gaia and Uranus like had sex, like the sky and the earth had sex, and then that birthed all the gods.
oh
So
yeah, I'm
like,
not familiar with Castlevania, but yeah, thanks for
oh
that
yeah,
explanation. That was cool.
there's also like like the god things is actually like real Greek myth,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. No, no, yeah.
pre-Cross and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I feel like God is all about dualities too, and then there's also the idea like so far the God we've like witnessed has been like an Old Testament fickle, angry, vain God, whereas
Yeah,
Luna might literally just be the New Testament God, where it's just like I'm chiller.
yeah. I like that. I like that comparison there. I think that like, we've been pointing out so many like parallels and connecting dots between, you know, Undead Unluck's potential, right, like the potential for all of these Judeo-Christian references in Undead Unluck. A lot of them are very blatant and you like just can't deny them. Like that's definitely like,
Hmm.
you know, a fucking Christian thing. But like some of them are just like kind of up in the air. Like I remember your Cain and Abel theory in regard to Unruin a couple, you know, episodes ago. Like we're constantly bringing those kind of things up in these conversations. And the situation that we have here where, you know, you're talking about how this God feels very Old Testament, very you know, fickle, very capricious, very, you know,
Would definitely
emotionally unstable. Yeah, 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 you know what I mean? So like all of that stuff is present here. But I mean like God is like behaving more like Satan in Undead Unluck. You know what I mean? Like, especially the situation that we get with Apocalypse telling them about Uma Revolution and how the Earth is
yo
going towards the sun because it's like, hey, wait a minute. You know, it's very reminiscent of like the
fucked
shady,
up the seasons.
yeah, like the shady, you know, shady deals with Satan. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's very much akin to that. Hey, we thought we understood the deal, But like the irony of it is that like this would have happened no matter what, because like yeah,
Yeah,
we gave you these missions, and then we said like if you do all these missions correctly, then
you'll avoid
these good things
penalties.
will happen to you. You'll avoid this penalty. But you attacking all of the seasons and taking them away as rules from the universe threw the fucking earth into revolution, and now you're hurling yourself towards the sun because
Now you
those
no longer
seasons,
have seasons
yeah, those
because you're
seasons don't
rapidly
keep the
dying.
earth, like, in a safe place, you know what I mean? So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, just like Shady deals with Satan. I'm remembering like, the Futurama episode where where fucking Fry gives his hands up, to be with like Leela or whatever, gives, robot devil his fucking hands, and like now he can't play his flute or whatever the fuck that shit was, you know what I mean? So I like
Mhm.
that kind of shit that we see in Undead Unluck, because it just makes it feel so much like deeper,
Oh
than
yeah.
it seems, you know what I mean? Especially on the
I
surface,
mean, I like the way you said that because like it is a very capricious Old Testament God, like the kind of God that would like s- sick a bunch of bears on children for making fun of a bald guy
Yeah,
just because. Like
yeah.
that's actually in the Bible. That is a
Oh my
literal story in
god.
the Bible.
Yikes.
I came from a very religious small town, and so like my
Mm-hmm.
background knowledge is sort of like a lens in which I can like pick up on some stuff, or maybe I'm just like projecting because I'm like, well, this is the most religious core of knowledge that I know. So
Yeah,
like, of course, I'm going to see the things that I see.
right.
Um, oh man, but like God made Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
God made Satan.
Mm-hmm.
When people are always like, "Oh, like uh Satan comes from the word shaitan, which means opposer."
Mm.
Like oppose, like a test, right? Like
Yeah.
so what if you got like and they're like, "Why does this angel leave heaven and say, 'I'm going to trick everyone and like tempt everyone to do bad things and then punish them because they listen to me?'" He's the opposer. He is the test. He is like supposed to be doing all these things. And like also like if God created that, that means God was knowing of that potential and possibility within a thing and manifested a lesser part of itself to do just that. So that
Mm.
means like everything that like all the potential wickedness would then exist in God already, in my mind. You know?
Yeah.
Like you can't make something if you don't know anything about something.
Yeah.
And that's why God is supposed to be all powerful. It just literally is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
but it's hard to say.
yeah.
Um,
No, that was a cool line of thought. I love how Andy just as soon as like the dialogue is coming out of Apocalypse's mouth, like, yeah, just think
your
about it
girl
before then.
die.
Or no, hold on. Where is it? Where does it grab him? Yeah,
It's
he's like
like,
that. Yeah, he's like, haha, you got it. If you had just taken the penalty to begin with, that unluck brat wouldn't be dead right. And then fucking Andy grabs his shit and starts squeezing the life out of him. And he's
oof.
like, I don't care if you kill me. My work in this loop is done. And he's like, what? And he's like, just think about it. The final quest is Ragnarok. Now, this blew my mind when I saw this on the timeline. I don't know what this means, for the story of Undead Unluck, obviously, because this isn't confirmed or anything. But if this is a piece of crazy, abstract, wild, Tozica foreshadowing, then I'm going to fucking shit my pants, because I saw this thing to where, okay, so you see on page 9, Andy is
All right.
holding Apocalypse, and you see his face. His head is where it's at. And then you turn the page into Ragnarok, and it's God, silhouette, behind the book of Apocalypse. But if you lay this page of page 10 on top of page 9, then lined up perfectly with the silhouette's face on page 10, underneath it is Andy's face, literally in the exact same spot. And there was a tweet where it showed like the book, the actual like pages, the physical pages of Undead Unluck, with like light shining down on it so that you could see through page 10 to page 9,
What?
and Andy's face is right there in the
Just
silhouette.
peeking through.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
I don't know what the
What?
fuck is it. Yeah, I was like, dude, that's totally like some Tozuka shit, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's
I need to
on
double check
purpose
something.
as fuck. Could be, could be. You know, isn't that so wild to
No,
think about, though?
because okay. So like the idea that like man is made in God's image.
Yeah,
You know what Andy is like Andrew comes from? There's a Andrew is from the Bible.
yeah.
Um but it means strong and manly. And that comes from the Greek root andros, which
Mm,
means man or warrior. So
mm.
Andy is man, Andy Andros is man. Man is made in God's image. The
Yo.
fact that that overlapped was hilarious.
Wow. And then like literal and figurative overlap here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I was
that's
just like,
crazy.
what? That's insane.
Yeah. Like
That's
if
so
that's
good.
legitimately like Tozuka foreshadowing some kind of crazy reveal about the relationship between Andy and God, like whoever fucking found that with that like beam of light through, you know, onto the book showing, you know, the face behind the silhouette on page 10 for Ragnarok, like that's just some of the coolest shit I've ever seen in comic books. Period.
Man, and like it's kind of interesting because like the idea like God had a child, like in the Christian world, like mythos, um, God had Jesus, right? Like
Mhm.
the Son of Man, um, born to die to carry the sins of the world. And what can Andy do? He can't die. He always comes back. Jesus took 3 days. Andy's a little faster. I can't help it.
Yeah.
So like I think that's interesting to have on top of that, and then Unruin
Yeah.
is just like he is exactly who I thought he was gonna be.
Yeah, dude, this character is so crazy. I feel like this was like the character that Tozuka like was waiting to give us, had in his back pocket. Like, can't wait to hit him with Unruin and Blood. Like, yo, like this dude has so much going for him already in like 3 or 4 chapters. We've got this crazy undead unlife parallel between him and Andy that's cooking in some kind of way that extends to the Uma that they're both wearing. You know what I mean? Like this has got
Mhm.
some crazy setup that Tozuka is cooking right now. He's got this very charismatic yet clearly insane like vibe to him. He's got all of
Mhm.
this wildly esoteric dialogue leading us towards the end of the fucking chapter that you know is just filled with all types of crazy Tozuka storytelling shit. Like all of his bolded text is very indicative of some wild payoff shit that Tozuka is setting up. The fact that he's just letting himself be torn to shreds by this fucking sunlight, you know what I mean? Like is just adding to the mystery, you know, of his character. And it's just like, holy shit, what are we leading into right now? The dialogue is so
Man,
poetic, but I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. This is how you do whatever the fuck Tozuka is doing right now. Let me tell you.
I love the fact that he thinks that like he's like, I'm sure that being this sick and in this much pain holds meaning because God is perfect.
Yeah, that's the one, dude. That's the one that
And
had me
I was
like,
just like,
whoa.
that's so scary.
Yeah, man.
That's so scary. God, there was a line I think I part of me thinks it came from like a World War II like German soldier,
Ooh,
like from like the Nuremberg trials. Don't quote me on this,
sure.
but they basically said the easiest thing to do in the world is to get a man to kill another man. All you have to do is say it's to protect their families or do it for God.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
I
God
think I
damn it.
remember that quote. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like it's something in there. I to that effect. I don't know exactly what the name of that quote is, but if anyone remembers, like, and is
Yeah.
correct, please let me know.
Yeah.
Um,
Another quote just in the same vein. It's like I think it was Richard Dawkins that said it, or maybe it was like Christopher Hitchens or some other like well-known like atheist guy. But someone said like good people do good things, bad people do bad things. Religion is the only thing that can make good people do bad things.
Do so many bad
Yeah,
things.
you
Like
know what I mean?
the Crusades, just
Yeah,
period. Look, not even like anything current, just the Crusades,
yeah.
and like there was like
It's like
4 of them, and like 3 of them failed,
it's the
and
only
even the one
example
that
that you really
succeeded.
need when you yeah
Yeah,
when you're talking about
dude,
this shit.
it's not even counting the Peasants' Crusade, which was its own just can of
Yeah,
worms.
wow.
Oh man, he's so scary, and I love the parallel that he just is with Andy. I was just like,
Yeah.
and oh my god, even their tears are mirrored. On the double spread on 1819, you can see
Fuck.
Unruin have
Yeah.
a tear of blood, and then Andy on the right hand having a tear of blood.
Yeah. Blood coming off
Like,
the scar with the card in it. Yeah. There's
mm,
like, dude, man, I'm like so I've been thinking about this.
wow,
I've been thinking about this shit the whole series. It's like what triggers these bleedings, right? Because you have Andy bleeds from the card sometimes. We've kind of put it together that it seems to only kind of trigger whenever he is like reminded of something related to Victor in some kind of way. You know what I mean? I think is what we kind of talked about before.
yeah,
I can't remember. It was a cool conversation. I don't remember it right now, so whatever. But like Andy's shit is bleeding randomly. Rip's eye from his eye patch is like always bleeding sometimes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and he's always like licking the blood that like drips down from his fucking like eye or whatever. Now this fucking like unruined dude is bleeding from his eye sometimes. Like
Hmm.
that, like whenever we get the raw like just dialogue or exposition for like why these things are happening to these characters, I feel like that's going to be massive, and it's just something
Oh,
that we're kind of supposed to either not notice until it happens or kind of like forget about sometimes. I feel like that's a major bomb that Tozik is going to drop at some point. Otherwise, I don't know why it's been such a thing for so long without any talk around it. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for
if it
that. Yeah,
if it's like based off like I'm looking at through the lens of like Ragnarok being a thing, right?
yeah,
And so like if it bleeds because he thinks about Victor, and Victor was a god, effectively like they mistook him for Thor, and he's like,
yeah.
I'm not Thor,
I'm
and
a
I'm like,
man.
maybe you are.
Yeah.
You might actually be Thor. Like the
Yeah, no, he
idea of
straight
like,
up said in the spoiler arc, he's like, fuck what you heard. You know what I'm saying? This ain't that, that ain't this. I'm not this
this ain't
god you
me.
think I am. Like, I'm a whole human man person. I think
Yeah,
it was something along those lines, and that's been in the back of my
yeah.
head forever too. Yeah,
I'm like, he doesn't mean he has to be telling the truth,
that's
and
true too.
like he might just be straight up lying to people or to himself.
Mm,
He's like, nah, I don't. I disavow myself of like the pantheon, right?
yeah.
Like I was talking about how
Or maybe he even doesn't remember, and he had a
yeah,
life even before his Victor consciousness. But yeah, keep going.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then Unruin could be like a sort of like Loki or anything, but like the bleeding eyes thing makes me think specifically zeroing back in
Yeah.
uh, about Odin,
Yeah.
because Odin was the All Father, the patron of like the patriarch of like the Norse pantheon, which include Ragnarok. And what he did was that he wanted knowledge, and so he like he hung himself from the tree of life and was kept in like a suspended state of like life and death for a very extended period of time.
Mm.
And he offered up his eyes to like I think crows. He sacrificed his eyes so that he could gain like perfect knowledge.
Mm.
And
Oh
so
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Whoa, that's in like actual Norse like Odin lore because
it should be.
that's totally a storyline in Marvel Comics for Thor
It
too. Like
is.
that's
It
how
is.
it's
That's a
like
real thing.
Rune King Thor or whatever.
I was given Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. I
Nice.
remember reading something about that like about a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's a little hazy to be honest. Um, but yeah, that was very like reminiscent of that. So like it might be interesting of like because like Odin was a trickster and
Mm.
cunning and canny and like very duplicitous and tricky,
Mm.
in addition to being like effectively like a war god
Mm.
of sorts because he he fought the giants, he founded Asgard, the
Yeah.
heavens. um and then like fathered all these violent children. So like
Yeah.
there's all of that. So like it might be interesting of like the idea that like old school god, like God from the sun, is Odin, and like he doesn't have eyes, and that helps you when you're staring at the sun is not having eyes. I don't know,
Yeah.
like
Or maybe like this god that like runs the universe isn't even actually like the original god or the true god or anything. It's just
yeah.
the one who's like sitting in the throne right now, and like the original god, like maybe something happened to them. Maybe this is like one of those kind of weird, you know, AUs where, Satan fell but then came back and took over. You know what I mean? And like we've just been
Yeah,
dealing with this
Satan
god
this
for a
entire
while,
time.
yeah, and we'll get some crazy reveal later, like, no, the real god is like, you know, locked up in a basement somewhere somehow or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't fucking know, but some kind of crazy twist like that would be
Daffy
wild.
is dead. He's locked up in my basement.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know.
oh man, just a strange chapter, but
Yeah,
like
these
it
these
went hard
Ragnarok,
all the way.
all of this like shit going into Ragnarok is like about to be wild. Oh my god, I just noticed this little cat that's
Yeah,
with
blood.
no, 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 no. Wait, is cat blood too? Because
I
like I
think it is.
because if you go to
I
page
think it's
14, he's sitting underneath the umbrella
yeah.
and you can see the eye of blood on the umbrella, but then the cat is also there behind him.
Oh, because on page 19 on Unruined shoulder, there's like this cat thing with one eye. So I was thinking that that cat, and on page 14, back on to the butt, um, that cat tail is like dripping. Or it might be, oh my god, it's a Nekomata.
It is a Nekomata. You see it on 15?
So,
Yo, the tail is split.
yeah, it's a demon cat. Blood is a demon cat. Okay.
So wait a minute.
Yokai.
Why is blood being shown as like two separate entities at the same time while Unruin is just chilling then? Because it's like this cat seems to be like running around and doing cat stuff, licking its paws behind Unruin on 14, climbing up his shirt, on 15, and then 19 he's clearly, on his shoulder with the
Oh,
Cyclops
I
eye.
thought it was all one thing.
Yeah,
So
no, it's
blood.
separate. Yeah, like
So
I'm
that means he's got more than one minion. That's
more than one
crazy.
Uma, but then why does the cat look so like resemble like blood some like what's with the eyes? I don't know. I'm just so like ready for the next fucking chapter. Just ready for more unruined scenes because like this is just so wild to me
Oh,
right now.
I think it might be grayed, like turned into a gray because it's looking at the sun and like the sun is shining directly on it.
Right.
So maybe that's why. Like it's like
But it's still got
how
the
blue
eye.
cars look
Just
black at night.
it's still got the eye just like blood though. Like if you go to the
Um,
umbrella, like that's well no, actually no, because blood's eye on the umbrella is like
yeah, it's
horizontal,
sideways.
and then the cat's
That's like
eye is vertical. So yeah, these are two different things. He's got two
holy shit.
Umas,
Yeah.
and one's a Nekomata somehow. Maybe it's not a Uma. Maybe it's something entirely different. All right, next chapter, please. Oh yeah, that's right. It's coming out
Is it
like
next
really
week?
soon. Yeah, yeah. Is it next week already? Holy shit! Did you have
Uh,
anything else for Undead Unluck this week, Mello?
uh, I was thinking about how the Bible is sometimes referred to as the good book, and Ragnarok is the bad book.
Oh,
What a
Apocalypse, you mean?
Yeah, Apocalypse is a bad book. What a
Yeah,
dickhead.
yeah, yeah. Fuck Apocalypse, bro. Fuck him. Fuck
Uh,
it. Whatever. But yeah, man.
dude,
Yeah, you got some?
fantastic stuff.
Oh yeah,
Fantastic stuff. That's it.
yeah. It's real good stuff, man. Can't wait for the next chapter. Can't wait for the next episode. I think that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching, you guys. Hope you enjoyed the conversations. Let us know if you did in the special grade chat. And by the way, if you have not already linked your Patreon account to your Discord account, make sure you do that. That'll open up the hidden areas that we have in our Discord so that you can chat with us in a separated setting. It's a little bit more intimate than Gen Pop tends to be in the server. But that's going to do it, you guys. Once again, just want to extend a huge thank you out there to all of you guys for supporting Project Manga to this degree, signing up for the special grade tier of support, keeping the lights on over here at Project Manga Patreon, allowing us to keep pumping out these special grade discussions and all of the other content that we provide in this platform. But we'll see you guys next time for episode 56. Hopefully the whole crew will be here next time. I'm really confident that we will. Signing off for tonight, though, I'm your host, Nox.
And I'm Elianis.
We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.